The packed courtroom fell silent as Judge Tanya Chutkin slammed her gavel down. The tension was thick. Today's case was already making headlines, but no one expected the fireworks that were about to unfold. Pam Bondi, the former Attorney General known for her tough stance on crime and politics, found herself in the hot seat, facing a sharp public rebuke from the bench. Judge Chutkin didn't hold back. "Ms. Bondi," she said, voice steady but stern, "your actions have raised serious questions about ethics and transparency. This court will not tolerate anything less than complete accountability." The words echoed in the room and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Pam's face tightened, but she remained composed, ready for what was coming next. As the courtroom buzzed with anticipation, Pam Bondi took a deep breath and stood up. Instead of responding defensively or walking away, she did something no one expected. She acknowledged the judge's concerns openly. "I hear you, Your Honor," Pam said calmly. "While I disagree with some of your conclusions, I understand the importance of transparency and accountability in public service. I am committed to cooperating fully with this process." The room fell into stunned silence. Political figures and journalists alike exchanged surprised glances. This was not the combative display they had anticipated from Bondi. Judge Chutkin nodded slowly, a flicker of respect crossing her expression. "Very well," she replied. "Let this be a reminder to everyone here that no one is above the law." Outside the courthouse, the media frenzy was already in full swing. Reporters scrambled to capture every moment of the unexpected courtroom exchange. Social media exploded with reactions, some praising Pam Bondi for her composed and cooperative response, others questioning what led to such a public rebuke in the first place. Political analysts debated the implications. Many saw Bondi's surprising humility as a strategic move, a way to regain public trust and shift the narrative away from controversy. Others believed it revealed a deeper change in her approach to public service, perhaps influenced by Judge Chutkin's no-nonsense stance. Meanwhile, Bondi herself held a press conference later that day. She spoke candidly about the importance of integrity and the lessons learned from the ordeal. "I'm here to serve the people," she said, "and that means being accountable even when it's difficult. I respect Judge Chutkin's commitment to justice, and I intend to honor that commitment moving forward." The judge's firm but fair handling of the case became a talking point in political circles, with many calling it a powerful example of judicial oversight in action. Pam Bondi's reaction left everyone wondering what this meant for her future. Was this a turning point or just a brief moment of reflection? The courtroom drama between Judge Tanya Chutkin and Pam Bondi quickly transcended the legal sphere and began to ripple through the political landscape. Lawmakers, lobbyists, and political strategists watched closely, trying to gauge how this incident might reshape alliances and power dynamics. Pam Bondi's surprisingly humble response sparked a wave of speculation. Some insiders suggested that Bondi was positioning herself for a political comeback, one built on renewed integrity and transparency. Others were more skeptical, viewing her statement as damage control in the face of mounting pressure and public scrutiny. At the same time, Judge Chutkin's reputation soared. Known for her strict but fair rulings, she became a symbol of accountability at a time when many felt political leaders were escaping consequences. Advocacy groups rallied behind her, calling for stronger judicial oversight and reforms to prevent ethical lapses among public officials. Political commentators debated the broader implications. Was this a sign that the tide was turning against entrenched political figures who had long operated with impunity? Or was it merely a one-off incident in an otherwise volatile environment? Behind the scenes, key players in both parties began reconsidering their strategies. Some viewed Judge Chutkin's public shaming of Bondi as a warning shot, a clear message that the judiciary would not hesitate to hold powerful figures accountable. Others saw an opportunity to leverage the situation, either by aligning with Bondi's apparent transformation or by challenging her more aggressively. For Bondi, the road ahead was uncertain. Her next moves would be closely scrutinized, with every speech, action, and alliance dissected for signs of genuine change or political maneuvering. What was clear, however, was that this moment had changed the game, for her, for Judge Chutkin, and for the broader political landscape. In the weeks following the dramatic courtroom confrontation, the spotlight remained fixed firmly on Pam Bondi and Judge Tanya Chutkin. The public's fascination with the unfolding political drama did not fade. Instead, it deepened as both women navigated the aftermath of their unexpected clash. Pam Bondi took deliberate steps to reinforce the message she had sent in court. She launched a series of community outreach initiatives focused on ethics reform and government transparency. At town halls and public forums, She spoke candidly about lessons learned and the importance of restoring trust in public institutions. Her speeches, once peppered with political bravado, now carried a tone of introspection and determination. This shift wasn't lost on her critics. Some remained skeptical, questioning whether Bondi's transformation was genuine or merely a calculated attempt to rehabilitate her public image. Yet even many of her harshest detractors couldn't deny that her willingness to publicly admit fault and commit to change was unprecedented in her political career. Meanwhile, Judge Tanya Chutkin continued to build her profile as a fearless arbiter of justice. Her courtroom became a stage where powerful figures could be held accountable, and her reputation as an impartial, incorruptible judge only grew stronger. She used her platform to advocate for judicial reforms and greater transparency in the political process. The political establishment watched closely as the two women, once on opposite sides of a bitter confrontation, came to represent something larger, a potential shift toward greater accountability and integrity in government. Some politicians quietly began adopting tougher ethical standards, hoping to align themselves with this new momentum. Yet challenges remained. The entrenched interests and political rivalries that had fueled the conflict were far from resolved. For Bondi, the path ahead required balancing the demands of public service with the skepticism of a wary electorate. For Judge Chutkin, the question was how far the judiciary could push before political backlash threatened the very reforms she championed. In the end, the courtroom showdown was more than a moment of public humiliation or a surprising act of humility, it was a turning point. It challenged long-standing norms, exposed vulnerabilities, and ignited a broader conversation about power, responsibility, and the future of political leadership. As both women moved forward, the nation watched closely, waiting to see if this moment of reckoning would lead to lasting change, or become just another chapter in the ongoing drama of politics. Months passed, and the reverberations of the courtroom incident between Judge Tanya Chutkin and Pam Bondi continued to shape political discourse nationwide. What started as a tense courtroom exchange had evolved into a symbol of a shifting political and judicial landscape, one increasingly unwilling to tolerate ethical lapses from those in power. Pam Bondi's efforts to rebuild her reputation gained traction. She partnered with nonpartisan organizations advocating for government accountability, lending her voice to campaigns that promoted stronger ethics laws and transparency initiatives. Her public appearances reflected a softer, more collaborative tone that contrasted sharply with her previous hardline political persona. Surprisingly, this evolution inspired a new generation of politicians and activists who saw in Bondi's journey a rare example of redemption and growth in the often ruthless arena of politics. Universities invited her to speak on ethics in public service, while editorial boards debated the sincerity of her transformation, most concluding that while political ambition undoubtedly played a role, the shift was at least partially authentic. Judge Tanya Chutkin, meanwhile, became a national figure emblematic of judicial courage. She was invited to speak at conferences, where she discussed the critical role of the judiciary in maintaining the balance of power and upholding democratic values. Her courtroom became a benchmark for fairness and accountability, and her rulings set precedents that resonated well beyond the walls of the courthouse. However, the journey was not without its challenges. Both women faced backlash from different sides, Bondi from political opponents unwilling to forgive past controversies, and Chutkin from factions that saw her judicial activism as overreach. Yet, these obstacles only seemed to strengthen their resolve. The courtroom showdown also sparked wider political reforms. Legislatures across multiple states began adopting stricter codes of conduct and transparency requirements for elected officials. Ethics commissions were empowered to investigate allegations more rigorously, and whistleblower protections were enhanced, reflecting the public's growing demand for integrity in governance. The incident also prompted deeper reflection within the political community. Conversations about the role of humility, accountability, and personal growth in leadership gained prominence. It became clear that public figures could no longer rely solely on political power or media spin. Their actions and character were under unprecedented scrutiny. As the story of Judge Tanya Chutkin and Pam Bondi entered the annals of political history, it served as a potent reminder that even in the most adversarial circumstances, accountability and openness could pave the way for change. Their clash, and the surprising aftermath, challenged long-held assumptions about power, politics, and the possibility of redemption. Ultimately, their legacy was one of disruption and hope. Disruption of entrenched systems that had too often shielded the powerful from consequences, and hope that the future of politics could be shaped by transparency, justice, and genuine transformation. As the public narrative around the courtroom confrontation began to settle, Both Judge Tanya Chutkin and Pam Bondi found themselves confronting their own private reflections on the events that had so dramatically altered their lives and careers. For Pam Bondi, the experience was both humbling and transformative. Behind closed doors, she grappled with the weight of her past decisions and the public scrutiny that had once seemed unbearable. Friends and longtime colleagues noted a shift in her demeanor, from defensive and combative to thoughtful and measured. In interviews reserved for trusted journalists, Bondi opened up about the moment in court when she chose to acknowledge the judge's rebuke instead of responding with hostility. "It wasn't easy," she admitted. "But I realized that facing the truth head-on was the only way to move forward, not just for me but for the people I represent. Accountability isn't a weakness, it's a strength." Bondi's renewed focus on ethical leadership became deeply personal. She began mentoring young political hopefuls, emphasizing the importance of integrity in public service. "Politics has to be bigger than winning elections," she often said. "It's about serving people with honesty and respect." Judge Tanya Chutkin's reflections were equally profound. Known for her strict judicial philosophy, she had not anticipated how much the courtroom exchange would redefine her role in the public eye. The judge found herself torn between maintaining judicial impartiality and becoming a vocal advocate for reform. In private moments, Chutkin confided to close friends and family that the experience had deepened her understanding of the human complexities behind every case. "Justice isn't just about rules and punishments," she explained. "It's about fairness, empathy, and sometimes the courage to confront uncomfortable truths." Chutkin also became more involved in educational outreach, speaking at law schools and civic organizations about the delicate balance between law and politics. She stressed the importance of an independent judiciary as a cornerstone of democracy but also warned of the challenges judges face in navigating highly politicized environments. Despite the intense public scrutiny and personal challenges, both women found unexpected common ground. On rare occasions, they were seen attending bipartisan events focused on government transparency and judicial reform, an unspoken acknowledgement that their confrontation had sparked a movement bigger than either of them alone. Their evolving relationship, marked by mutual respect and a shared commitment to accountability, became a quiet but powerful symbol of healing in a deeply divided political climate. As new challenges emerged on the political horizon, both Bondi and Chutkin prepared to face them with renewed purpose. Their journey was far from over, but the story that had once been about conflict was now about growth, responsibility, and the ongoing quest to build a more just and transparent society. Years after that pivotal courtroom encounter, the legacy of Judge Tanya Chutkin's public shaming of Pam Bondi continued to influence the political and judicial spheres. What had begun as a sensational moment of conflict had matured into a sustained dialogue on accountability and leadership in government. Pam Bondi's career took unexpected turns. Though the controversy initially threatened her political future, her commitment to ethical reform won her new supporters across party lines. She was invited to serve on several bipartisan commissions aimed at enhancing transparency and curbing corruption. Bondi's transformation from a polarizing figure to a respected advocate for integrity became a case study in political redemption. Yet, Bondi remained candid about the personal costs. The intense scrutiny, the betrayal by former allies, and the internal battles she fought were part of her ongoing journey. "Change is never easy," she remarked in a reflective interview. "It requires facing uncomfortable truths, not just about others but about yourself." Judge Tanya Chutkin's influence grew beyond her courtroom. Her rulings continued to set important legal precedents, and she became a mentor to younger judges navigating the intersection of law and politics. Her advocacy helped shape policies that strengthened judicial independence and protected the judiciary from political interference. The two women's rare public appearances together symbolized a new era in political discourse, one where adversaries could become partners in progress. At a nationally televised forum on ethics and governance, Chutkin and Bondi spoke side by side, emphasizing the need for courage, transparency, and humility in leadership. Their story also inspired a generation of activists, lawyers, and politicians who sought to challenge complacency and demand higher standards from their leaders. It became a reminder that no matter how entrenched power may seem, accountability has the power to disrupt, and ultimately to heal. But the journey was ongoing. New scandals emerged, political divisions deepened, and the struggle for justice and integrity continued. Both Bondi and Chutkin understood that their work was never truly finished. It was a lifelong commitment to a cause greater than themselves. In the end, the courtroom clash that once shocked a nation became a defining moment in the fight for honest governance. It showed that even in the highest halls of power, humility and accountability could prevail, and that the courage to face one's mistakes might just be the greatest act of leadership. The fallout from the dramatic courtroom exchange between Judge Tanya Chutkin and Pam Bondi had, over time, sparked a subtle but significant cultural shift in the political landscape. What once seemed like an isolated incident had become a catalyst for a broader movement toward accountability and ethical governance. Across the country, political leaders found themselves under heightened scrutiny. Voters grew increasingly intolerant of opaque dealings and evasive rhetoric. The public's expectations evolved, demanding greater transparency and responsiveness from their representatives. This shift was not just a reaction to scandal, but part of a deeper desire for leaders who embodied integrity. Pam Bondi's evolution became emblematic of this change. Her journey from a fiercely partisan figure to a vocal proponent of reform inspired many politicians to rethink their approach. Bondi herself acknowledged the weight of this responsibility in interviews and public speeches. "Leadership is not just about power, it's about trust," she often said. "Once that trust is broken, it takes time, effort, and genuine action to rebuild it." Judge Tanya Chutkin's role in this cultural transformation was equally profound. Her firm stance in court and unyielding commitment to fairness elevated the judiciary's role as a guardian of ethical standards. She was frequently invited to national panels and think tanks, where her insights helped shape policies aimed at reinforcing the independence and accountability of the legal system. The story of their confrontation was taught in law schools and political science programs as a case study on the importance of checks and balances. Documentaries and books chronicled the saga, exploring themes of power, humility, and redemption. The narrative resonated deeply in a society grappling with political polarization and disillusionment. Behind the scenes, both Bondi and Chutkin continued their work quietly but purposefully. They supported initiatives to educate citizens on their rights and the importance of civic engagement. They championed programs that encouraged young people to pursue public service with integrity. Yet, despite the progress made, challenges persisted. Political corruption and judicial pressures did not vanish overnight. Both women understood that vigilance was necessary to safeguard the hard-won gains. They remained committed to fostering a culture where accountability was the norm, not the exception. In many ways, the courtroom moment was just the beginning, a spark that ignited a long, ongoing journey toward a more just and transparent political system. Its legacy endured in the people it inspired, the reforms it spurred, and the conversations it forever changed. Years after their dramatic courtroom encounter, Judge Tanya Chutkin and Pam Bondi stood at a quiet event honoring public service and integrity. The room was filled with lawmakers, judges, activists, and citizens who had followed their journey and witnessed the ripple effects of their unlikely clash. As they both took the stage, there was a palpable sense of respect and shared purpose. Neither woman was the same as when the story began. The trials they faced had reshaped their views on power, responsibility, and leadership. Pam spoke first. Her voice steady and sincere, she reflected on the lessons learned. "We all make mistakes," she said. "What matters is how we respond, whether we let those mistakes define us or use them to grow and serve better. I stand here committed to doing the hard work of earning trust every day." Judge Chutkin followed, her tone firm yet hopeful. "The rule of law is the foundation of our democracy. But it requires more than laws. It demands courage, integrity, and accountability from all of us. This moment reminds us that justice is not an abstract ideal, but a living practice." The audience applauded, not just for the words, but for the journey these two women had shared, a journey from confrontation to collaboration, from division to dialogue. Outside the event, headlines celebrated the renewed focus on ethical governance. Political leaders cited the example set by Chutkin and Bondi as a beacon in a turbulent time. The nation's conversation about power and accountability had been forever changed. And for the two women at the center of it all, their story was no longer about conflict or humiliation. It was about the possibility of redemption, the strength found in humility, and the ongoing pursuit of a fairer, more transparent future. As they exited the stage together, side by side, it was clear that a new chapter had begun, one defined not by past mistakes, but by the courage to face them and the commitment to build something better.